see that, and there isn't a case for rejoining the EU. And that's why I've been clear that because we've had a referendum, we've made a decision. If we've learned one thing, it's that the uncertainty of a referendum and everything that then follows is very, very bad for our economy. And our job, if we're privileged enough to come into government, will be to clear up the mess and rebuild our country. That means we have to make Brexit work. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the deal we've got is good enough. It was said to be, oven ready. It wasn't even half baked. So we've got to get a better deal, and we will get that better deal. You've seen some of the news this morning about Vauxhall and others and their worries about job losses. We've got to turn all that around, but it'll be a question of making Brexit work, not rejoining the EU. I think that we need to have a closer trading relationship.
Keir Starmer is facing mounting challenges, and recent weeks have only intensified the crisis, largely because his own party members are abandoning him at an unprecedented rate. The central question is why this exodus is happening, whether it stems from frustration over his leadership style, a lack of clear policy direction, internal rivalries, or the perception that he is failing to inspire confidence both within the Labour Party and among the public. Each day without a compelling strategy or explanation seems to deepen the sense of disillusionment, turning private grumbling into visible defections and leaving Starmer increasingly isolated at a critical moment for his leadership.
Mr. Speaker, in the general election campaign, Labour leadership promised that if we won, we would step in and save the Grangemouth refinery, retain those jobs and invest in its future. 6 months later, this hasn't happened yet. If the refinery closes, then thousands of jobs will be lost and Scotland's national security will become massively weaker. Now that we are in power, I know that the government should use it to intervene and save the refinery jobs, protect Scotland and deliver on the promise to build Grangemouth for the future. Will the Prime Minister do that?
This is a really important point, Mr. Speaker, because before July there was no plan at all to support the workers at Grangemouth. Within weeks, and importantly, we announced a £100 million deal for a growth deal, and we're jointly funding Project Willow to find a viable long-term future.
Keir Starmer once again finds himself in an unenviable position, with his leadership of the Labour Party and the country under intense scrutiny, and the situation showing no signs of improvement, suggesting that the challenges ahead may only deepen.
Mr. Speaker, in the general election campaign, Labour leadership promised that if we won, we would step in and save the Grangemouth refinery, retain those jobs and invest in its future. 6 months later, this hasn't happened yet. If the refinery closes, then thousands of jobs will be lost and Scotland's national security will become massively weaker. Now that we are in power, I know that the government should use it to intervene and save the refinery jobs, protect Scotland and deliver on the promise to build Grangemouth for the future. Will the Prime Minister do that?
This is a really important point, Mr. Speaker, because before July there was no plan at all to support the workers at Grangemouth. Within weeks, and importantly, we announced a £100 million deal for a growth deal, and we're jointly funding Project Willow to find a viable long-term future. It is a really serious point. I take it very seriously, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that viable long-term future is there for the workers, for their community.
Before he took over as Prime Minister, Keir Starmer promised to be the voice of change, presenting himself as the man who would clean up the mess left behind by years of Conservative Party leadership.
One of those whammies, just this headline from the front of the Eye today, and it says, an extra 100,000 pensioners in poverty after the winter fuel cut. I mean, that's pretty drastic, isn't it?
It's terrible, and 100,000 pensioners driven into poverty by this winter fuel decision the Labour government have made is terrible. Obviously, I voted against it. Conservatives voted against it for precisely this reason. And of course, that impact assessment you just read out, the Labour government hid that during the vote. When we voted on this a few weeks ago, they deliberately did not publish that impact assessment. They hid it from Parliament and hid it from their own MPs, who the government were trying to hoodwink into, they successfully hoodwinked them into voting for this terrible measure. And the fact that they're taking winter fuel payment away from almost every pensioner, driving 100,000 into poverty, is even worse when we now discover this morning inflation is on the way up as well. So it's a triple whammy.
Starmer urged unions to come to the table and collaborate with him to propel the country to new heights. Yet in recent months, many have criticised his words as lacking real substance. The pressing question is why a man once viewed as a beacon of hope, transparency and accountability has now become an object of ridicule in the eyes of the British public.
Something to me. So it's reported that you're giving sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, but you're also giving them £9 billion. What is that money for?
Well, there's been a whole bunch of speculation around the finances,
Yeah, that's why
a lot of which I
you...
don't recognise.
OK, so how much money are we giving them then?
Well, the details will be provided in due course of the deal, and we said that we'll provide those details with Parliament in due course. We obviously don't normally, as a routine, comment on the costs of our bases overseas, and you'll understand that for national security
But just to be clear,
reasons.
the money is to pay for the base.
So the money is a crucial part of the arrangements, and those arrangements haven't changed. There's been no change
is the money
in that.
to pay for the base? Is that what that money's for?
So
Because if you get my point.
The answer lies in a long list of broken promises. As the MP in the initial clip clearly highlighted, Starmer has failed to deliver on numerous commitments, leaving both himself and the Labour Party at odds with the public.
Andrew Rosender.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister should know that my constituents in Romford are shocked, angry and dismayed by the suggestion by the ONS that the population of this country will rise to 72.5 million by 2032. Mr. Speaker, that's 500,000 people a year, which is unsustainable. Who voted for that? And will the government do something to ensure that the population of this country is sustainable going forward? Because there is no mandate for such a colossal increase in immigration in this country.
I think he should talk to his leader, because net migration went through the roof under the last government.
But that's not all. Things look set to get even worse for the Labour leader. His recent criticism of the Conservative Party for losing some members has sparked severe backlash, with many arguing that his comments overlook the deeper issues at play. Critics accuse Starmer of seizing the moment to advance his political agenda instead of providing real solutions to ongoing strikes and public service challenges, highlighting a broader concern that his leadership style leans toward opportunism rather than offering a concrete plan or meaningful policy. And the situation shows no signs of improvement for him.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I for one will be downloading the song of the Honourable Lady for Neath and Swansea East. Can I join the Prime Minister in his delight and also his support for Mani Damari, and I'll join hope that we will see Emily and other hostages released as soon as possible. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has rightly spoken about the need to restore and rebuild the public's trust in British politics. Now, we believe a crucial part of that is reforming our electoral system to make it fairer and more proportional. And so does a majority of the British public. And this House voted yesterday in favour of a bill for electoral reform put forward by my honourable friend, the member for Richmond Park. So will the Prime Minister find government time, make it available, so we can consider this bill on electoral reform and restore the public's trust in our politics?
Can I thank him for referencing Emily, because I think it is important that we all remember her, and I say the awful torture that her mother is going through, and that's the case for all of the other hostages. It's hard to imagine what it must be like for anybody with friends and family who are still being held hostage after all this time. Look, proportional representation is not our policy. We won't be making time for it. And I just gently say to him, he didn't do too badly under the system as it is.
Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, has faced significant public backlash over his stance on proportional representation (PR), after nearly 60 of his MPs supported a Liberal Democrat proposal to move away from the current first-past-the-post system. Intended to potentially extend Labour's hold on power, the move has sparked widespread concern, with critics accusing Starmer of a self-serving reversal, given that he once opposed adopting a PR system, fueling public unease over his true motivations.
Let's get stuck into our show today. It's all about pensioner power today, and we've heard from the Prime Minister after a tense day yesterday in the House of Commons. MPs voted to scandalously cut winter fuel payments for old age pensioners. The Conservatives and Reform are vowing to name and shame Labour Party MPs who voted, in their words, to freeze your grandparents, as ministers doubled down on their decision to scrap winter fuel payments for 10 million British pensioners. Now, lest we forget, in 2017, Angela Rayner tweeted this. She tweeted that will Theresa May confirm that 10 million pensioners will lose their winter fuel payments if the Tories are re-elected? Well, they weren't re-elected. You were in power, Angela Rayner, and your party decided to exit. Well, 10 million pensioners are about to, but I thought you cared about this country's pensioners. And also, from 2017, this is what Rachel Reeves had to say. There's a message on screen there. I'll never forget a woman in Leeds West I spoke to who had purple fingers because her pension wasn't enough to pay for the heating. We must act now. This is the same Chancellor, Rachel Reeves now, whose idea it was to axe the winter fuel payment. And it just keeps getting worse and worse for the Labour Party. Joining me now is our political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, an astonishing day yesterday. You were sterling, brilliant work in Westminster Hall, reporting on this all day. The votes came in live on the show. I was staggered by them. I was staggered by the fact that so many first-time Labour Party MPs followed the party line. 348 out of 348, 100% of the MPs who voted to access, they are all from the Labour Party. Quite simply, Chris, my question is the Labour Party the new nasty party?
Well, they certainly have their fingers dipped in the blood, to use a kind of Shakespearean sort of Caesar analogy. They've been made to...
The suggestion to switch the electoral system to one that could theoretically give smaller parties greater representation has drawn some support, but many fear it could lead to complex coalitions and unstable governance. Public debate has intensified, with critics questioning whether Labour's push is a strategic move to secure long-term power. Some see it as evidence of Starmer's struggle to build consensus within his own party, while others argue it could make elections fairer. Yet for those already disillusioned with Labour's leadership, the proposal is seen as political manoeuvring, with accusations that Starmer is prioritising the party's position over genuine democratic reform, even as policies like a 2% increase in employer national insurance contributions impact ordinary people. Many voters note the stark difference between what Starmer and his colleagues promised and what they are actually doing, fueling widespread disappointment. This growing voter disillusionment is also driving Labour MPs to leave the party, fearful of losing their seats amid Starmer's rapidly declining popularity. These departing MPs are not silent. They accuse Starmer and Rachel Reeves of misleading the party and abandoning Labour's long-standing principles as the party for working people, traditionally committed to defending the rights of those who cannot advocate for themselves. Since Starmer became leader, Labour has experienced a marked shift in priorities, exemplified by policies like the controversial new tractor tax, despite Starmer's 2023 National Farmers Union speech promising a renewed relationship with the countryside and farmers just weeks before the general election.
Every day seems to bring a new existential risk to British farming. Losing a farm is not like losing any other business. It can't come back. That's why the lack of urgency from the government, the lack of attention to detail, the lack of long-term planning, it's not on. You deserve better than that.
Keir Starmer claimed to be deeply concerned that each day brings new existential risks to British farming, emphasising losing a farm is not like losing any other business. It can't come back. Shadow Environment Secretary Steve Reed went further, insisting it was desperate nonsense to suggest that Labour would scrap tax breaks for farmers. Yet in a controversial move, Starmer implemented a widely unpopular budget measure, cutting agricultural property relief and imposing a 20% levy on farming assets worth over $1 million, hitting farms that were previously exempt.
Just a few weeks ago, met actually previously on a number of occasions with his predecessor, and there's no issue with meeting, of course there isn't.
Well, but for the Chancellor of the Exchequer?
Well, that'll be a matter for her, but there's no in principle. I mean, I myself met the President of the NFU, and I think that... Well,
is it an example that you will be encouraging the Chancellor to follow?
Well, the Chancellor will manage her own diary, but I mean, I took the view...
Well, I mean, we're laughing here, but, you know, we had one witness giving evidence to the Select Committee who, when talking about the impact on his farming business, broke down.
Yep.
So there are a lot of people who don't find this funny. How does it make you feel to hear that witnesses were breaking down before my Select Committee?
Well, of course nobody's comfortable with that, but that is why I took the decision to have a meeting with the President of the NFU, to invite him in for a meeting with me, not with a great fanfare, but just for a private meeting so that I could hear for myself.
Critics warn that the move will force family farmers to sell their land, striking at the heart of rural communities. Meanwhile, more MPs are taking note of the growing tide of criticism and the mounting scandals surrounding Starmer's leadership, prompting many to jump ship while they still can.